Chapter 17. Financing of World War II by England and America. Both world wars were engineered problem-reaction solutions to change the face of human society and centralize global power. This is a quote by David Icke. The question was, how should we maneuver Japan into firing the first shot? It was desirable to make sure the Japanese be the ones to do this so that there should remain no doubt as to who were the aggressors. This is a quote by Henry Stimson. 2 weeks before Pearl Harbor was bombed, I will need to keep the history of both World War I and World War II short, or this book will become a doorstop. Therefore much more detailed information can be found from other authors, but World War I was designed to change the map of Europe and to test germ and chemical warfare for future uses. It also coincided with an influenza outbreak that was designed to reduce the global population. World War II was a test of the final globalization and extermination projects. It was also created to test mind control machines, test the use of fluoride, which slowly kills brain activity and slows resistance to authority. World War II also enabled experiments with slave labor camps and taught the masses to spy and report upon each other. World War II was a massive false flag based upon other smaller ones. This was done in order to progress the New World Order by the secret societies, who profited massively from it, and it created the foundation for both the later European Union and the United Nations. Mentioning World War II, the greatest slaughter of people in history was financed by both the Federal Reserve of the United States together with the Bank of England. The total amount of foreign investments in German industry during 1924 to 1929 amounted to almost 63 billion gold marks. 70% of revenues were provided by bankers from the United States, and most were from J.P. Morgan, and as a result in 1929, German industry was second in the world, but in the hands of America's leading financial groups. Interesse and Gemeinschaftsfarben industry was the main supplier of the German war machine, and it financed 45% of Hitler's election campaign in 1930. They were under the control of the Rockefeller Company, Standard Oil. By 1933, key sectors of German industry and the large banks such as Deutsche Bank, Dresdner Bank and Donut Bank were under the control of American finance capital. General Motors, owned by the DuPont family, established control over Opel, and Henry Ford had 100% control of the shares of Volkswagen. Former German Chancellor Brüning wrote in his memoirs that since 1923, Hitler has received large sums of money from abroad, and they were received through Swiss and Swedish banks. In September 1921, England abandoned the gold standard, which destroyed the international system of payments, creating a problem of financing for many. A visit in May 1933 to the United States by Reichsbank preceded him being placed again as head of Reichsbank. After meeting with the U.S. President as well as bankers on Wall Street who allocated Germany loans totaling $1 billion. In June of the same year, Schack traveled to London to meet M. Norma to get a loan of $2 billion. Hitler admitted that his 4-year plan was based on foreign financial loans. In 1934, American Standard Oil, Rockefeller-owned, acquired 730,000 acres of land to build large oil refineries to supply the Nazis with oil, and at the same time Germany took delivery of the most modern equipment for aircraft factories from the United States, which began the production of German planes. In 1941, at the height of the war, American investments in the German economy totaled $475 million. The Federal Reserve was set up in 1913 to finance both sides of 2 subsequent world wars. In other words, these wars were funded by the credit of the U.S. taxpayer. Apart from profiting from it, The Illuminati bankers use war to enslave us with debt, enact social change and consolidate their power. This is a quote by Dr. Henry Makow, in a book by Professor Anthony Sutton, entitled Wall Street and the Rise of Hitler. He details companies including General Motors, GM, General Electric, ITTC, Ford Motor, Chase Manhattan Bank, Morgan Guaranty Trust, Exxon among others that financed Hitler before and during World War II, providing him with ammunitions and weapons to wage his war. World War II was the most egregious hoax in history. A cult of satanic Jews and Masons financed by the Rothschild Syndicate is responsible for destroying more than 60 million lives. Hitler proved by his actions that he was a traitor. He was installed by the Illuminati to destroy Germany so that it would slip neatly into the New World Order. This is a quote by Henry Makow. So in summary, the financing of the barbaric Second World War was funded by the same elite that control the British and American banks, in order for Hitler's deranged plan to come to fruition. The byproduct being that money from American banks and companies and English banks was being used to kill Russians and Jews and others in Eastern Europe, as well as French and British innocent people being bombed in British cities, not including American and British forces personnel. This could only happen in a lunatic asylum. The Rothschilds have funded and orchestrated the Russian Revolution, both world wars, and endless other conflicts. This is their recurring modus operandi: fund all sides in wars that the Rothschilds have instigated through their governments and media, make sure the funding is in the form of non-existent money called credit so that in reality it costs them nothing, supply the countries with armaments from Rothschild-controlled defense contractors, and when they have mutually devastated each other, lend the governments more credit to rebuild their countries. In this way, the Rothschilds own countries and their people through staggering levels of debt. This is a quote by David Icke in The Perception Deception. We entered the war of our own free will, without ourselves being directly assaulted. This is a quote by Winston Churchill. The war was not just a matter of the elimination of fascism in Germany, but rather of obtaining German sales markets. This is a quote by Winston Churchill. Germany is too strong. We must destroy her. This is a quote by Winston Churchill. I believe now that Hitler and the German people did not want war, but we declared war on Germany, intent on destroying it, in accordance with our principle of balance of power, and we were encouraged by the Americans around Roosevelt. We ignored Hitler's pleadings not to enter into war. Now we are forced to realize that Hitler was right. This is a quote by former UK Attorney General, Sir Hartley Shawcross. I see no reason why this war must go on. I am aggrieved to think of the sacrifices which it will claim. I would like to avert them. This is a quote by Hitler, July, 1940.